all aboard for your chance to win $1,000 every week until December 28th. That's right, $1,000 cash just in time for the holidays. To hop on board, just head to ChurchillMortgage.com and punch your ticket to the Churchill Express giveaway. Visit ChurchillMortgage.com for your chance to win big.
This is a paid advertisement. NMLS ID 1591. NMLSConsumerAccess.org. Equal Housing Lender. 1749 Mallory Lane, Suite 100, Brentwood, Tennessee 37027.
This episode is brought to you by Let's Productions. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn. See you there.
There are people who have recognized what severely distorted space does, the effect that severely distorted fabric of space and time. They've studied what effect that has on the passage of time. And it turns out there is a path you can take around two moving black holes that haven't quite collided yet, where you can end up in the past of when you started that journey. Backwards time travel, according to calculations from Einstein's general relativity, is enabled by the severely distorted fabric of space and time, such as what you would get with black holes that came in their own proximity.
What leads people to think that travelling back in time cannot occur in our universe is the grandfather paradox. This is a well-known paradox of time travel, in which inconsistencies emerge through changing the past. The name comes from the paradox's description. A person travels to the past and kills their own grandfather before the conception of their father or mother, which prevents the time traveller's existence. While some physicists argue whether time travel is possible, theoretical physicist Carlo Rovelli thinks that time is in fact an illusion, and our reality is just a complex network of events into which we project sequences of past, present, and future.
Alien Strand Podcast.
What's up, guys? This is Mike Beavers from The Theory, and you are listening to Alien Strand Podcast, the dopest UFO alien podcast out there. And if you want to find out about me, just go on YouTube and search UFOs over U of O or The Theory with Mike Beavers. Stay tuned, guys.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Alien Strand Podcast. I'm your host, Donald Ledesma, and welcome to today's show. It's going to be an interesting one. That's a fact. So I just want to welcome everybody to Alien Strand and, just spread the word of Alien Strand Podcast. We're like at 25, 26 platforms, or maybe more now. It's just growing every day. And I really appreciate that from everyone, that just loves to listen. I get a lot of instant messages from a lot of my friends and people from all over the world just listening to Alien Strand, and thank you for that. Thank you for listening and catching up to all the shows. A lot of times I'll go back and they'll just go back and play a couple of the past podcasts just to get a refresher on that good information that was put out there, right? So you can catch us on Tumblr, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and alienstrand.com. Check us out there. Give us a like. We're on YouTube as well. Subscribe, even on any platform that you're listening to us on, as far as like iHeartRadio, Spotify, any of those major ones, Deezer, Castbox. If you're listening to us on any of those big ones, it doesn't really matter. Just hit a like or follow, and we really appreciate that. So that way, when a new podcast comes out, you'll be able to catch it right away, and I'm sure it'll give you a little notice there that there's a podcast out, right? Just like today. So also, Alien Strand does have their own platform. So we have our own platform, right? So, and it's free. Right now it's on Google Play. You can download it. Just search alienstrand.com or go to search Alien Strand there on your Google Play, and you'll be able to find the player there. And what it does is once you download it, you sign in, right? Once you sign in, you'll be able to leave comments and all that stuff that's on each one of those episodes. Even when I go live every once in a while, you can interact with me as I am talking just like a live radio show, right? So an Alien Strand podcast is here to give you all the information that we have, and things that are out there that we just don't understand sometimes, right? And even things of the unknown, as far as like Bigfoot, UFOs, aliens, conspiracy theories. We have all kinds of things that are happening now, and it's just we try to put things together sometimes, and even though a lot of these older abduction stories that I talk about and I reference to a lot, and because it has a lot of merit to a lot of these older stories, and usually with these stories you can almost kind of put that puzzle together as far as finding out about these extraterrestrials or Sasquatch or Bigfoot or anything like that, right? So Alien Strand Podcast is part of the ufology community, right? And we have a lot of friends out there, a lot of groups, that we interact with, especially with the Extraterrestrial and Strange Happenings group, with Ani Ball and Jody and all those friends and family out there. Really good, great group to just kind of analyze a lot of footage there, and that's what they do on that one. They're very strict about stuff. So if you're going to be a troll and talk down things and blah blah this or whatever, they'll take you right off, okay? So but their site and their group is an actually really good group. They'll teach you how to do these things and use a lot of filters, and they'll show you programs and what you can use yourself so you can follow along with ufology, right? Because it's like a big let's just say like a big science project, right, that we're trying to do, and we're trying to figure out what exactly is out there or how to interact with these things when they come upon us, right? So, and that's what I try to do here, as a host here. I'm Donald Ledesma, so I try to do a lot of these things to give you the information that it's a possibility that it'll help you open your mind, right? So you have to have an open mind in order to kind of get into ufology, right? Can't just be closed-minded, because then you'll have a harder time trying to figure it out, right? Just like anything else. So here we don't try to push it on you or anything like that. We just want you to get the information, and then you figure out for yourself, right? So if you go to our Facebook page, right, I usually post a lot of information, a lot of UFO crafts that I do take off of other sites, and I share because they love sharing, and I keep Alien Strand a very shareable platform, so that way you guys can just share the information from them to other folks that are interested in ufology or just the unknown. I mean, we even do like spirits and ghosts and stuff like that too, right? So we do everything, as far as history as well. I love Egypt. That's why you'll always see a lot of Egyptology, I guess, a lot of stuff there on Egyptian culture and what they did back then during the pyramids, so you'll catch a lot of information there. So please go to the Facebook page, check that out, give us a like, share it with a bunch of your friends, share these podcasts with a lot of your friends, and that way, we can get out there to as many people as we can. We're all over the world right now, and I really appreciate everybody doing that and just getting the information out, okay? So, today's topic, I always thought about, You always see a lot of these videos out there, right? And subjects and things on, I guess, time travel, right? You always hear a story here and there about something that possibly happened to somebody, or they have a sense of loss of time, or they walk into something that wasn't there. They'll have a story to tell. They'll be wide awake when it happens, right? And I decided to put this podcast together based on those instances and those stories, okay? So there's going to be maybe one story in here that it's possibly true or not, right? And I'll let you know at the end of the story of what it is. But there's just a lot of information on quantum and what it means and what it means to possibly time travel, right? Is it a possibility? Well, yeah, I think Einstein, he proved general relativity. They always tried to figure out if his theory was correct, and all the information that he gave us out there was enough to prove that it is possible, right? So what if?
New on Curiosity Stream, we've walked with dinosaurs. We've explored our prehistoric planet, and we were always told the same story. Extinction came from the sky. But what if dinosaurs survived? Amazing Dino World 2. Watch it now on Curiosity Stream. With monthly, annual, and bundle plans, find the one that works for you at curiositystream.com.
Capture life's moments like never before with Rockbrook Camera, Nebraska and Western Iowa's premier camera store since 1975. Rockbrook Camera is not just about selling you a camera. It's about helping you become a real photographer, recording your life and sharing it with others. Today's cameras are faster, easier to use, capable of shooting stunning video, and with film photography making a comeback, there's never been a better time to dive into the world of photography. Rockbrook Camera goes as fast or as slow as you want to go. You can try before you buy with camera rentals, or give that older generation camera in the used department a whole new journey. Find Rockbrook Camera, 1 block south of 168th and West Center in Omaha, 70th and Pioneers in Lincoln, and at rockbrookcamera.com. That's rockbrookcamera.com. Discover or rediscover your love of photography today at Rockbrook Camera. Great photography begins here.
What if you don't have to go to a speed of light in order to travel forward or back? What if you don't have to go through a wormhole or anything like that to experience something? What if something on Earth just mysteriously appears and you happen to walk into it? Just for that split second, it allows you to do that. What if that is a possibility? And you might be able to, because there's stories out there of this actually happening to folks out there, right? So, people always say quantum. The definition of quantum is the minimum amount of physical entity involved in an interaction of photons into a single quantum of light or any other form of electronic radiation, right? Quantization of energy, and its influence of how energy and matter interact, right? Which was called quantum electrodynamics, and is a part of a fundamental framework for understanding and describing nature. And it was actually found in the 1900s, this definition and what it is, by Max Planck. And they called it quanta of matter and electricity, right? So basically, it's all it's saying is there's a large or possible electronic magnetic field of a possible source, right? And with enough energy, it allows you to possibly travel, right? or go forward or back. Almost like a wormhole. But they say a wormhole is microscopic. So how are you going to pull yourself in a wormhole that small, right? And, even Albert Einstein, he suggested that radiation, it has like localized packets that he called quanta of light. So it's light quanta. And with that is where we have possibly all these stories of possible time travel or going forward or back. Is this possible? I think it possibly is, right? And this is for you to decide, really. So we have a case here. And the gentleman's name, it happened in the 1950s. His name was Rudolph Fentz. They say a guy with a mutton chop, sideburns, and Victorian clothes just appeared in the middle of the street. They say he came out in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of Times Square. They say the man looked startled. By the time he looked up, he was run over by a car, and he was killed. So when they retrieved his body and took him back to the morgue or the hospital at the time, they searched his body, his clothes. They noticed that he had like earlier 19th century money, as well as documents dating back to 1876. And none of the documents, they said it didn't appear to have aged a day, right? So these documents were like somebody had just written them or typed them out or probably written them back in the day. They didn't look weathered or anything like that, right? But that's what got their attention, is especially on the documents. His name was Rudolph Fentz on the documents. Later, they attempted to track down his family, right? They had a hard time trying to find these people. Back then, it was no internet, none of that good stuff, right? Everything was done manually, knocking on doors, asking people. So they found a Mrs. Rudolph, who was the widow of the dead man's son. And she says that her husband, which was that dead man's son, he claimed that his father disappeared one day in 1876 and never returned. So they were surprised at that moment, right? I'm sure as anyone else would be like, whoa, how did this happen? Later, it turned into like almost an urban legend of this story. I mean, do you believe that something like that could happen to somebody? He was shot into the future. Remember, he was from 1876. So that kind of gives you something to think about, right? From 1876 to the 1950s, he shot a good ways forward. Can that happen? Well, here's another story. There's a Royal Air Force commander. His name was Sir Robert Goddard. He said he was flying over an abandoned RAF station Drem, D-R-E-M, in Scotland in 1935. And he claims that he entered a time slip of some sort. He says the airfield I flew over was decommissioned after World War I. He passed over and said it was abandoned, it was empty. He goes through this flight path numerous times, right? So he's always seen this empty airfield. On his return trip that day, he hit a storm. He says, I struggled to regain control of the airplane. He said right after the storm ceased, he looked down at amazement on the airfield. He says it was in use. It had aircraft on it, on the ground, with engineers milling around, he says. So he looked down over the, through his airplane, looked down, and he sees same place, but it was full of airplanes, engineers, pilots, everybody was walking around down there. He says seconds later, the storm appeared again, and he fought to keep control. He made it home safely that night. And he wrote a book on his experience in the 1970s. And he called it Flight Towards Reality. He says, strangely, that airfield was recommissioned in 1939 to prepare for World War II. Right? Just think about that just for a second. Was he looking at the future? Or was he looking at the past? World War I and World War II weren't that far as years of separations, right? So I'm sure that probably the aircraft, they changed somewhat. Do you think he was looking at the future or the past? And how does this happen, right? Could he have traveled in a sense, or just maybe saw a glimpse of the past? In other words, you hear people talk about dimensions, right? Different dimensions. Could he have seen an alternate dimension? Or could he have seen something of the future? Right? Anything could be possible through Einstein's theory, right? So here's another story. So on July 29th, 1998, on the very popular show Coast to Coast with Art Bell, during open line segments, Bell read a letter from a man to be from the future, which came in a fax. Back then, all they used is fax machines, right? To get their messages across. 1998. We had internet already, but this was a strange story. So Art Bell read the letter on the air, and it says, "Dear Art, I had to fax when I heard time travelers calling in from any time past the year 2500 AD. Please let me explain. Time travel was invented in 2034. It's offshoots of certain successful fusion reactor research allowed scientists at CERN to produce the world's first singularity engine. The basic design of values of rotating singularities inside a magnetic field. By altering the speed and direction of the rotation, you can travel forward and backward in time. And itself can be understood in terms of connected lines. When you go back in time, you travel on your original timeline. When you turn the singularity engine off, a new timeline is created due to the fact that you and your time machine are now there. It says there's some interesting outcomes of this are: you meet yourself. I have done it often, even taken a younger version of myself along for a few rides before returning myself to the new timeline. I'm going back to mine. You can alter history in the new universe that you just created. Most of the time changes are subtle. Sometimes I'll notice car models that don't exist, books that come out late. Unfortunately, it was also discovered that anyone going forward in time from 2036 hit a brick wall in the year 2564. Quote, please pray that we discover the reason why there is no apparent future after 2564. Now, this is the letter that Art Bell read on the air. Now, after the years, he kept on getting faxes from here and there. He also got a few people claiming they were him as well. Okay, the name is John Titor. Everybody should know that name because it was all over the place if you were a coast-to-coast listener or even into, a lot of these shows. But later, he even sent photos of his time machine and how he needed this part from the IBM. I believe it's like a 5600 that they didn't make anymore. Showed how to use it. Even somebody patented that design after this came out. Somebody literally patented that design when he put the pictures out there. Did it work? No. I'm going to tell you why it didn't work. Because this whole story of John Titor was made up by Joseph Mahoney. And he kept it going until March 24th, 2001. Until he started telling everybody he's the one that did it. Purposely. He even had a woman following John Titor. He says they just kept on going with it. In other words, it was a big joke, right? Not knowing that they had so many people pulled into that story that I believe somebody bought the rights to that story. I believe it was in Japan. And they were going to make a movie on this. Would make a great movie, I believe. But if you ever hear this story, just know that it was a hoax. Between Joseph, his girlfriend, and a couple other people who are adding into it. In other words, what they would do is go back and, put little pieces of what was going on, especially when they put in CERN in there. CERN was just created. So they started adding all these little things to make you believe. They even got down some of the physics right on this time machine in a sense and what they were talking about. were students, college students, man. So they were pretty sharp in that area of science. Is it a big bummer? Yeah, probably for some of you, as it was for myself. They had me pulled in back in the day. You know, I was a large fan for Coast to Coast. I still am. I love them guys. I love what they do. But not everything is like that. You know, there's another story. I don't know if you've heard of it before, but it's called Project Pegasus. And this gentleman claims, his name was Andrew Ogayo, in 2004 made this claim. He said, I was working with this Project Pegasus with time travel and experiments. And I don't know if you've seen this photo, but he claims there's a famous photo of him as a young boy in Gettysburg in 1863. You'll see him there standing in the middle, and I believe he was wearing extra large shoes because he said he couldn't find any that fit him, so they gave him some big shoes to put on so he can travel back to that area. And he saw the Gettysburg Address. Claimed that the technology that they got the information from on how to build this was developed from the work of Nikola Tesla. So this gentleman, Andrew, he's a Seattle attorney right now. And he said all this publicly in 2004. Claims he was between the ages of 7 and 12 when all this was happening, when he participated in this program. They worked on teleportation, time travel, and they were all with DARPA, Defense Advanced Research Project Agency. That's what DARPA stands for. Says it was a precursor to a Mandrake project and the Philadelphia experiment. So this program, Pegasus, came after the Philadelphia experiment and the Montauk project, right? So these were projects that the military was trying to use as a possible cloaking device, and it ended up failing horribly. I believe the reactor or whatever they used on that ship, when they turned it on, it ended fusing a lot of the men to the metal on that ship. So their faces, their bodies were melted into the ship. That's like the ship became liquid and they just got sucked in it. So you could see their arm sticking out, or leg, or face. Went horribly wrong. But there was a claim on 2 gentlemen that made it out of there. One of them, I believe he claimed that he went way into the future. Saw things that he couldn't believe he was seeing, just like my last podcast. So this program began in the 1970s, right? So this gentleman claims that he traveled to the Ford Theater on the night of Lincoln's assassination. He says, I traveled there at least 5 or 6 times. That's why he was captured in that photograph in 1863. He says, I experienced 8 different time travel technologies. But, he says, Tesla's was the best. They found Tesla's work, his project in New York, and his apartment after his death in 1943. And he kind of explains what this machine looked like. He said the teleporter consists of 2 gray elliptical booms about 8 feet tall. And they're separated about 10 feet. It says in the middle was a shimmering curtain of radiant energy, which was a broadcast. It said they had the ability to bend time and space with that. It says each visit was different. It's like sending us to an alternate realities on adjacent timelines. So for about 70 years now, U.S. government has concealed this technology. Do you believe that this technology exists? This last story that I told you, I've seen a lot of videos on this guy. He always talks about how his dad introduced him into this. His dad was actually in the military. So his dad brought him in so he could jump with him. He claims this on many, many videos that I watched and read his stuff. He's got his own website there. You can go and check it out. But I believe he's like selling his book or something like that. So you can get all the information of what he said. But I believe the best way to do it, go back, find his videos and his interviews, and you'll see a lot of his information as he speaks about it. And he when you see him talking about what happened to him as a child, he's very sincere. Is he telling the truth? And why would the government allow him to say this? Do they think, oh, he was a child? He's just making things up, so they kind of let it go, right? Or is he protected in a sense? Like Dr. Greer. You know, these people that experience all these things, especially with government cover-ups or just technologies that are beyond our belief, they tell us these stories in parts, small parts. I'm sure they're restricted on getting into detail on things, right? So there's a strong possibility that these people are telling the truth. Now, flying in the airplane in the storm, that was a mishap. Could he walked into something or flown into something that put him in a different dimension, or he saw something different? I believe there's a few stories out there on these aircrafts when they're up in the sky like that. Or they're calling in on the radio and there's no response, or they're talking to somebody in a different timeline. Is time travel possible? Or are we seeing things in a different timeline? it's just like if you get your hand, right? Stretch it out in front of you. Put your other hand on top of that hand, about 4 inches above it. That's another timeline, right? Now move it to the right. Move one of your hands to the right. Now you have 2 timelines, right? What if you're seeing, if your hand goes over the other one again, that you're seeing the same thing but in a different timeline, right? Is that possible? I believe it is. You know, we have stories of the Bermuda Triangle. How is this happening, right? How do they know what's happening in the Bermuda Triangle? They still can't figure that out, right? You know, the Bermuda Triangle, it's huge. It's between 500,000 and 1,510,000 square miles. That whole region makes like a triangular shape. You know, it's ships disappear there. Planes disappear there without a trace. They claim that there's a strong electronic magnetic field there. You know, what is making this happen? There says there's an agonic line that passes through the Bermuda Triangle, right? Ever since the 20th century that they're figuring this out. Well, so far they have at least, what they've counted is about 50 ships and about 20 airplanes that have been lost. Do we still fly over that area? Yes, we do. Does it happen every day? No, it doesn't. Could these be like freak accidents, you know, of what's happening to folks out there? Could they be going over a strong magnetic field at the time? Could you walk into one? Just like that gentleman in the 1800s. He landed in the 1950s. How does that happen? So these are things you have to think about. You know, they're strange, they're unknown. And that's what Alien Strand does here. Get you thinking a little bit. Use a little bit of science to try to figure out, okay, is this possible? It probably is. Have we gone far enough to figure it out? Probably. People talk about it all the time, even in my podcast of alien abductions. Some of them go back in time. Billy Meyer, I believe, did that. Took photos and everything of the past. Do these craft of UFOs or what we're seeing in the sky sometimes, can they travel that fast? Go forward or back? Probably, with that technology that they have. We see how fast those things zip across the sky. I'm talking your standard saucer shape. None of this Millennium Falcon, you know, X-Wing fighter looking things that you see in the sky. You know, no, it's going to be saucer shape, basically, or a round orb, diamond. These are the things you're going to see that are going to be real. Most of my stories that I talk about are all these shapes. So here at Alien Strand, we want you guys to think about it, watch what you're seeing, dig into what you're seeing. If you can, you know, go to these groups that help you research these things as well. They'll give you the tools necessary to get your answers, right? And that's what we try to do here at Alien Strand. I'm glad you guys stuck around for this story, or these stories. They're very, very interesting, and I really enjoyed telling these stories to you guys. You know, got a lot of good followers out there. Thank you. Like I said, click a like, give us a thumbs up, get the Alien Strand app, you know, download it, sign in, and, you know, give us some comments there. You know, share Alien Strand to everyone that you can out there. Anything you can do to help out, help the cause, which is ufology. That's what we're doing here. Things of the unknown as well. You know, so we're going to try to get more stories out for you. I'm looking into more Bigfoot and Sasquatch stories, so I'm going to try to get that out as well, because those are very interesting. I noticed a lot of you guys are, you know, commenting on a lot of the Bigfoot and Sasquatch that I put out there. So I do have a podcast of that in my past. I believe it was Crystal, it was her name, and you can go back and check out that podcast, look for it, and you know, it's a great podcast, man. And she gives you a lot of information. She had some stories of, you know, terrifying stories, and one that'll freak you out at the very end of that podcast. Great story, great person. She's a great person. So hopefully I can get her back on the show. She was willing to come back again, and maybe she's got some more information for us. But also, you know, you can find us on Tumblr, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and alienstrand.com. Check us out there. Share as much as you can. You know, get the information out there. You know, we're all over. You know, even Google, just Google it, and, you know, it'll take you to anywhere on Alien Strand. Just type in Alien Strand podcast, bam, it'll give you a bunch. You know, if you can't find it that way, just do it the simple way, right? So we really appreciate you. We love you guys, and thank you for sticking around and listening to today's show. I really enjoyed it. I do have a new guest going to be coming up. She's going to be anonymous. So she's going to be giving us her story on a possible abduction coming up after this podcast. So it'll be right after. I'm throwing two back to back, okay? So that way I might get super busy, so I'm going to try to do things like this to try to get more information onto you guys, because I know you guys enjoy it, and as much as I enjoy telling you these stories. So, but until then, you guys have yourselves a good day. You guys have yourselves a good evening. You guys have yourselves a good night.
Hi, this is Kelly Green with Realty Executives, Coastal Bend in Corpus Christi, Texas. And you're listening to the Alien Strand podcast with Donald Ledesma. Buying or selling, visit me at kellygreenrealtor.com or visit me on my Facebook page, Kelly Green Realtor. See you there.
Hey guys, it is Ryan. I'm not sure if you know this about me, but I'm a bit of a fun fanatic when I can. I like to work, but I like fun too. It's a thing. And now the truth is out there. I can tell you about my favorite place to have fun. Chumba Casino. They have hundreds of social casino style games to choose from with new games released each week. You can play for free anytime, anywhere. And each day brings a new chance to collect daily bonuses. So join me in the fun. Sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.